Rick and I lit the firecrackers and threw them down the street.
Rick, Gordon, I hope you aren't the ones bursting those firecrackers out there,
Mom yelled from the yard.
No, Auntie,
Rick yelled back. We waited about 5 minutes before we started our shenanigans again. Rick, check this out.
Gordon, no!
But it was too late. Gemma, Alicia's friend from next door, called out to her and she ran right in front of me. The firecracker exploded. The cry that Alicia let out will haunt me for the rest of my life. Rick, Gemma, and I ran to Alicia, who was curled up in a ball in the middle of the street holding her ears.
Alicia!
Mom screamed as she ran into the street and knelt next to Alicia. Dad scooped Alicia up and put her into the back seat of the car. Mom hopped into the car beside her and Dad jumped into the driver's seat and the tires screeched as Dad pulled out of the driveway. Aunt Sybil, Rick's mother, and his father, Uncle Reuben, together with Rick, stayed with me until Mom, Dad, and Alicia came home. All the other family members left shortly after Alicia was taken to the hospital. It seemed like forever, but the front door opened and my family walked through the door.
So, what did the doctors say?
Aunt Sybil asked Mom. Mom just shook her head and escorted Alicia to her bedroom. Dad sat with us.
After running some tests, Alicia no longer has any hearing in her right ear and severe hearing loss in her left ear.
Dad, Dad cut me off with a raise of his hand.
Let's all get some sleep and we'll talk about it later.
Life changed drastically for my family, especially Alicia. Even though I apologized to my parents and Alicia for what I did, it never took away the consequences of my actions. Every day I had to wake up knowing that my sister was deaf because of me. It was a heavy burden to bear. Alicia dropped out of school and she no longer played the clarinet. Since Alicia was age 5, she wanted to be a clarinet player in an orchestra, and I ruined everything. I tried apologizing to her with letters and gifts, but every morning I'd see them by my bedroom door. The hardest part for me was seeing my sister pull away from us. She stopped interacting with us. She only came out to eat meals and use the bathroom. Dad pretended as though it didn't affect him, but for every meal Alicia wasn't at the table, Mom cried and left the table early, leaving her meal untouched. During one of Alicia's visits to the doctor, Dr. Green introduced my parents to a specialist named Dr. Holland. He told my parents he would need to do 2 surgeries of a bone conduction implant, which fits part of the device into Alicia's inner ear. Once that was completed successfully, the other part of the device could be worn on a headband with the device by her ear. Dr. Holland told them that the cost would be between $10,000 and $17,000. You know I can help with the cost. I walked into the kitchen as my parents tried to brainstorm ways to get money to fund the surgeries. I can work after school and on weekends.
Son,
Dad said.
We can't allow you to do that.
Okay, then what about if I get my friends together and we do some fundraisers to get the money? He nodded his approval to me. Later that week, when I got home from school, Dad's friend, Mr. Alexander, was there chatting with Mom and Dad. After I greeted them, Mr. Alexander turned to me.
So, Gordon, I heard that you're looking for a job.
Yes, sir, but my parents won't allow me to, with school and all.
Maybe they'll let you work for me. I'm looking for a new courier. You could work for me 3 days a week. You'll get $300 a week plus tips. But if your grades drop, then that's it.
I looked at Mom and Dad eagerly. My eyes pleaded with them.
You've got a deal.
Mom said to me.
But if your grades drop...
I shook Mr. Alexander's hand and thanked him. He told me to come to his office after school tomorrow and we'd get started. The next day when I arrived at the office, Mr. Alexander had a suit, tie, and shoes waiting for me. I got dressed and went back to Mr. Alexander's office where he gave me the addresses and the packages. When I came back, Mr. Alexander showed me to my cubicle where I completed my homework till it was time to leave the office. At around 8 p.m., Mr. Alexander and I pulled up to my house. He opened his wallet and handed me $500.
This is your tip for today. I was happy when your parents allowed you to take this job. I tried to help them, but they are a stubborn couple. I know you'll make good use of this.
I thanked Mr. Alexander, hopped out of the car, and disappeared into the house. The next week, while I was home alone in the afternoon, I heard a knock on the door. When I opened the door, in front of me stood a well-dressed man. Good afternoon. Can I help you with something?
Good afternoon. I'm Agent Oxford.
He flashed his ID before me, then showed me a picture of a woman.
Do you know this woman?
I've seen her around. I don't know her. What is this all about? I asked suspiciously.
I'm in the middle of an investigation, and I need you to plant a device in her office.
I think I'll have to talk to my parents first. Maybe you can come back when they're home? I began to close the door, but Agent Oxford pushed the door open.
Your parents have known this lady for 15 years, and involving them will be a conflict of interest. The agency is willing to pay $3,000 if you plant the device successfully.
Well, if that's the case, Agent Oxford handed me the device.
When you plant the device, I'll drop off the money.
He walked away without another word. A few days later, I was able to plant the device successfully in Miss Pitt's office. As promised, Agent Oxford made contact with me after I planted the device and gave me the $3,000 as promised. 2 weeks after planting the device, I was shocked when I saw Miss Pitt's face on the news. She was reported missing by her family, and the main suspect was her ex-husband, Andrew Oxford. I knew I couldn't tell anyone about the device I planted or the fact that Agent Oxford asked me to plant it. If I told Mr. Alexander, I'd be fired for sure, and we only had $6,000 more to raise for Alicia's surgery. I had no idea what to do. The next day, when my parents took Alicia to the doctor, Agent Oxford showed up. Why didn't you tell me that Miss Pitt was your ex-wife? What did you do?
Do you really think if I was the person who took her that I'd be on your doorstep right now?
Agent Oxford lifted an eyebrow at me before he slipped inside the house.
Listen, I don't have much time. We've made a big breakthrough in the case, and I need you to plant another device.
Are you kidding me? After what happened to Miss Pitt? Agent Oxford cleared his throat.
As I was saying, I need to plant another device in this house, in your parents' study.
Is anything going to happen to my parents?
If you don't plant the device, something might.
I'll plant it today if I receive double payment this time.
Deal.
Agent Oxford gave me the device and slipped out of the house. As soon as Agent Oxford left, I planted the device in my parents' office. The next day was Saturday. My parents and Alicia spent the entire day running tests and preparing for the surgery. Agent Oxford stopped by and dropped off the money. That night, when my parents came home, I told them I had the remaining $6,000 after our car wash today. I know I told my parents a little white lie, but it was for a good cause. Mom hugged me and Dad ran to call Dr. Holland to schedule Alicia's surgery. That night, while I was getting ready for bed, someone slipped a piece of paper below the door. I read, "Thank you for everything you did. Love, Alicia." I smiled and went to bed. The following week, Mr. Alexander came to dinner twice, and both times he and Dad retired to the study after dinner. By the end of the week, Dad said he and Mr. Alexander booked a business trip and will be leaving Saturday evening. About a week later, I arrived home about an hour earlier than expected. I saw a package with Mom's name on it by the front door. I picked it up and went inside. "I'll just put it in the office for Mom," I mumbled to myself. The look of shock that washed over Mom's face when I opened the door took me by surprise. Then I realized why Mom reacted the way she did. Also in the room was Miss Pitt. "What are you doing here?"
Roseanne and I have been friends for years.
Mom answered. I sank into one of the office chairs. I was totally confused. So did Dad even go on a business trip with Mr. Alexander? Mom and Miss Pitt stared at me.
Well,
Mom began. Miss Pitt interrupted her.
your dad actually went on a rescue mission to save me. With his help, I was able to escape. But we had a mole in our agents, and now your dad is captured.
A mole? Agents? Mom, what is going on?
The only thing you need to know is Mr. Alexander was responsible for Miss Pitt's kidnapping. He is a very powerful man and has his hands in the police and justice system, so it's hard to take him down. Dad and I have been trying for over 15 years.
So what's going to happen to Dad?
Well, your mom is one of the best agents on the field, so she has to go into the field.
But what about Alicia's surgery? And who's going to stay with us when you leave?
Alicia's surgery is 2 weeks away. Dad and I will be home long before then. Roseanne has offered to watch after you guys while we're gone.
Later that night, Mom dropped us off by Roseanne. She thanked her friend, kissed Alicia and I goodbye, and left. Roseanne showed us to our rooms. Alicia's room was right next to mine. I entered the room, placed my things on the ground, and lay on the bed. I fell asleep, and around 1 a.m. I needed to get some water, so I left my room and began to walk downstairs. Halfway down the stairs, I heard Miss Pitt and another person talking. It was Mr. Alexander.
Well, we got rid of the loose ends.
Miss Pitt said.
Now, we can go forward with the next stage of our plan. Do you have them secured till pickup?
Yes, they are at the abandoned warehouses over at Gulpole Pier. As soon as the dawn breaks, Mr. Telesford will arrive to take them away.
I shielded my breath and snuck back into my room. I needed to get to Mom and Dad. I looked up and said, "I know we haven't spoken in a while, but please keep Alicia safe." I slid my sneakers on quickly and climbed through the window. Just as I passed the tree right in front of Miss Pitt's house, I felt a hand over my mouth and someone pinned my arms. I began to fight, then heard a familiar voice behind me.
Gordon, it's me.
I spun around and came face to face with Agent Oxford.
So I take it you found out where they hid your parents?
I nodded.
Okay, let's go. And don't worry, we have eyes on your sister upstairs in her closet. She's safe.
I followed Agent Oxford a few houses down to a black van. We hopped inside and I told the driver the location. On our way there, 4 other black vans fell in line behind us. As soon as we got to the location, Agent Oxford instructed me to stay in the van, and he told the driver if they weren't out in the next 15 minutes to call for backup. I watched, and Agent Oxford and the agents from the other vans slid into the shadows, then entered the warehouse. These 15 minutes were the most excruciating minutes of my life. It felt as though time slowed. 15 minutes felt like 50 years. Suddenly, the driver started the van and I saw Mom, Dad, and Agent Oxford running towards the van. As soon as they jumped in, the van sped off. Mom, Dad, are you okay?
We're fine. Nothing a little R&R won't fix.
So what's going to happen to Mr. Alexander? Just then, Agent Oxford got a phone call. I noticed that we weren't heading back to Miss Pitt's. Hey, where are we going?
Home to your house so you can pick up a few things, then to a safe house.
But what about Alicia?
Don't worry, we'll get her there safely.
Suddenly, Agent Oxford's phone rang. He picked it up, listened, then hung up and looked around.
Roseanne's dead, and Mr. Alexander is gone.
He slammed his fist against the van. And where's Alicia? My heart raced.
She's on her way back to your house as we speak. She's fine.
Agent Oxford responded. So Miss Pitt was the mole? I asked quietly. Agent Oxford nodded. He said that he had been compiling information about Mr. Alexander for over 8 years. He was wanted for many crimes, but he also got away. Agent Oxford couldn't understand how he was always 2 steps ahead of the agency. Then he realized that he was unknowingly giving information to his wife, and she was telling Mr. Alexander. Agent Oxford knew Mr. Alexander had some accomplices, and they were getting close at revealing who they were. But with Miss Pitt's death, they suffered a huge setback. As soon as we pulled up in front of our van, Agent Oxford told us we had 10 minutes to get our things and get back into the van. My parents and I ran into the house and we froze. Written on the wall in red liquid was, "You're next." Agent Oxford told us to get back into the van and we headed to the safe house. That was about 5 years ago. My family and I are still in hiding since Mr. Alexander is still on the run. Oh, and Alicia did her surgery and she is able to hear with 75% clarity now, and we're closer than ever before. I often wondered, however, what would have happened if I never threw that firecracker?
Nora, don't worry. She won't find out.
You don't know my mom.
Stop worrying. Have some fun. This carnival is only set up here once every 5 years. Yeah, look. Have some of my cotton candy. Oh, look. It's a mini roller coaster. Let's go on that one. Then I want to go to the haunted house.
Fine. I had an exhilarating night. I was only 14 years old and it was the first time I'd ever snuck out with my friends. You're probably wondering why I needed to sneak out, because what I was doing with my friends was totally harmless. Well, my mom was a total tiger mom. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I was only allowed to go to and from school, and she completely controlled all of my extracurricular activities. I had gymnastics on Tuesdays and Thursdays, piano on Wednesdays, and swimming on Fridays. Apart from those days, I had to be either at home or school. If I went anywhere, it had to be with her, my dad, and my younger sister Lily. I wasn't allowed to have sleepovers with my friends or to go to any of theirs. I had to top every single class or I was punished. And just like the original Tiger Mom, my mom didn't allow me to participate in anything fun at school. No school plays, no fun days, nothing. In fact, if my mom found out that we were having a fun activity at school on a particular day, she'd force me to stay home to study. If you think this sounds awful, keep watching because it gets worse, especially after my little escapade with my friends. So you can probably guess that sometimes I felt like I needed a break. I was frustrated and sad. And when my friends suggested that I sneak out to go to the carnival, I hesitated for a while, but I eventually agreed. I thought my plan was foolproof. I'd come home after school and tell her that I had a big test to study for the next day. Then I'd change my clothes and sneak out of my window to meet my friends. My mom never disturbed me while I was studying, so I felt like I didn't have to worry about that. I left the window open a bit, so it'd be easier to sneak back in when I got back. I came back home at about 7, which is not late at all, right? After having the time of my life, I thought my night could only get better, but boy was I wrong. I opened my bedroom window and tiptoed inside. I walked over to my light and switched it on.
Oh, so you're back?
Mom, what are you doing in here?
Should I be the one asking questions right now?
I went over to Emily's house to study instead of staying here.
Don't lie to me. Look at this picture Emily posted a few minutes ago on Instagram. You were all at that carnival downtown. Look, isn't this you?
She pushed the phone in front of my face and I recognized myself. Mom, you're following Emily on Instagram? I didn't even know you had an account.
I made a fake account so I'd know what you're doing all the time. It's finally served me well. Now explain yourself.
I explained to my mom that I needed a break. I told her the truth, hoping she'd go easy on me, but...
That's it. You're not allowed to have friends anymore.
What?
You heard me. And you're changing schools by the end of the week.
What? But that punishment makes no sense.
What makes no sense is your behavior. Go shower and go to bed.
My mom left my room. I had a miserable shower, then went to sleep crying. I hoped that I'd wake up the next day and she'd have changed her mind, but when I got up, she told me I'd be staying home that day. She took my sister to school and my dad left for work. I was home alone for a while, then my mom came back with a huge smile on her face.
You got in.
In where?
Into the most prestigious private school in our state. Here, I already bought your uniforms. Go try them on.
The uniforms were hideous. It was a white undershirt, orange jacket, and a plaid green and orange skirt. I looked at myself in the mirror and felt like I was going to barf.
Wow, that looks awesome. You're starting tomorrow.
Can I say goodbye to my friends one last time?
No.
I wanted to cry. The next day, my mom dropped me off at my new school. Before I got out of the car, she reminded me that I wasn't allowed to have friends.
If they say hello, you can say hello back, but that's as far as it goes. If I find out that you are making any friends, there will be severe consequences. And trust me when I say severe.
I got out of the car and she said nothing comforting to me. So here I was, starting a new school, for no reason. Why did she have to be like this? I walked into the building and everyone ignored me. We're off to a great start, I guess, I thought. I tried to find my way to the principal's office because I had no idea what class I was in or where I was supposed to be going. The place was so huge that I ended up getting lost, so I asked a cute little first-year student to help me, and she took me to the office.
Hello, are you Nora?
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard lots of awful things about you. Your mother says you're totally out of control, but this place is sure to straighten you out.
My mother said, what? At this point, I was about to explode. I was a perfect child with straight A's and exemplary behavior. I'd only done a bad thing once. And this is what she said about me?
Don't worry. I believe in new beginnings. This is a great school. Here, I printed your schedule for you. Your first class is French.
She walked me to my first class. The teacher wasted no time and asked me to introduce myself in French to the entire class. I was a bit embarrassed, but by the time I was done, some of my classmates were clapping.
Wow, your French is perfect. How lovely.
I sat next to a cute boy who winked at me and smiled. I smiled back, then sat down and took out my notebook. After class, he walked over to my desk.
Hey, my name is Jamal. What's yours?
It's Nora.
Do you want me to show you around the school? I could meet you at lunchtime and give you a tour.
Sure, I quickly replied because, like I already mentioned, he was cute. Like, really cute. Like, no boys at my previous school were this cute. But then I remembered what my mom said, and I was crushed. Wait a minute, I just remembered I have something to do in the library. Maybe I can meet you after school. I ran to look for my next class and spent the rest of the day trying to avoid him. That night, as I tried to fall asleep, all I could think about was Jamal and his cute smile. I wished I could at least get to know him, and I wished I was allowed to have friends. The next day, he tried to sit next to me for every class. I kept giving him one-word responses when he spoke to me, but he didn't seem annoyed or frustrated at all. Instead, he became more persistent. The day after, he started passing me notes.
You're shy, aren't you? By the way, you have gorgeous eyes.
I melted. I decided to write one back. I'm not really shy. It's just that my mom says I'm not allowed to have friends. Also, I think you're really cute. He blushed as he read it, and we continued passing notes to each other for the rest of the day. His last note that day was,
Have a wonderful night. Love always, your secret friend.
Now, if you think this story is just another love story with a happy ending waiting to happen, think again. Because in my life, good moments just don't last. We continued passing each other notes for about a week. Then one Friday afternoon, he sent this.
It's been great talking to you, and I'm glad you transferred to this school. Since I'm your secret friend, do you think maybe we could go on a secret date sometime?
I smiled at him and shoved the note into my backpack. I thought about how wonderful it would be, just me and him on a hot date. But how would we pull that off? I decided I'd go home and think about it. The next day, I couldn't really concentrate on anything because I was thinking about how I could go on a date with Jamal. After dinner, I went up to my room to get started on my homework, and my mom was standing there looking angrier than I'd ever seen her.
What is this?
What, Mom?
I found this note in your backpack.
Mom, why are you going through my things?
Because I don't trust you. So first you sneak out with some girls, and now you're making plans to meet a boy? And you've been talking to him? When I specifically told you that you're not allowed to speak to anyone? You're despicable, Nora.
She left my room and slammed the door. I was terrified because I didn't know what to expect next. I couldn't concentrate on any homework because my mind was racing. I went to my bed and fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up to loud banging noises on my bedroom door. I opened the door and saw 2 cops standing outside.
Are you Nora?
Yes?
Pack a bag, you're coming with us.
My mom appeared behind them smirking. Mom, what's going on? Where am I going? I can't be going to jail for passing notes in class. That's crazy.
I told them what you did.
What?
That you've been stealing from that convenience store a few blocks away.
What are you talking about? I've never stolen a thing in my life. She turned to one of the police officers and tried to explain to him that I was just lying. But at that moment, I started to realize what my mother had done. She'd framed me for a crime, and now my life was going to take a horrible turn. I didn't know what to do, so I left with the police. I mean, where would I run? And my mom was clearly doing nothing to defend me. And don't talk about my dad. He just let her do anything.
So listen, dear. We all do wrong things in life. This is why rehabilitation centers exist, and I'm hoping that the one we take you to will transform your life.
Rehabilitation center?
You're going to juvie, darling.
What? No! I burst into tears. There was no way I'd last more than a second in there. I was as fragile as a rose, and they were about to put me in a place with a bunch of rough girls who had done really bad things. Can you imagine the horror? It was more awful than I could have imagined. There were 5 girls assigned to each room, and it seemed like the girls in my room didn't like me from the beginning. We had to wake up at 5 o'clock every morning to shower and get ready for the day. We had classes in the center, so I wasn't allowed to go to school, and I had no way to communicate with Jamal. I was heartbroken, and I hoped he didn't think I just left without saying goodbye. The middle of the day was when we were allowed to go outside for a while to play sports. This is when many fights happened, so sometimes that part of the day was canceled. It was sometime during my second week, I met Gina on the basketball court. She looked like one of the baddest girls in there, but for some strange reason, she seemed to like me.